When I was growing up in Britain and Israel was under attack or in some sort of security strife, I felt that I wanted to join the Israeli army. I've been thinking a lot about that this week. Of course, I'm not suggesting that had Newton joined the Israeli army those years ago, he would have somehow become a jihadist John in the long term. That's not the connection I'm making. But this week, the Australian Prime Minister announced some tougher counter-terrorism laws, including some crackdown on citizenship welfare, which means that we may end up at some point in my mind having to choose between being an Australian, being British, or being Jewish for that matter, or at least having an allegiance to Israel. These crazy notions were only a vague possibility when I was growing up, but they're very real now. Over in the UK this week, the most appalling story about three apparently intelligent young women who've made some rather extraordinary decisions of their own.
All 50 to 60 British women and girls are now thought to have left behind families and friends to travel out to the Middle East and join Islamic State. They include these twin teenage sisters from Manchester who followed their brother to Syria and both married IS fighters. And Aqsa Mahmood from Glasgow, who also married a fighter. There's growing concern that young women are being aggressively groomed on social media. But what kind of a life awaits them under IS? This is thought to show the Alen twins from Manchester, although women are only actually supposed to fight in extreme circumstances. A month ago, female IS supporters issued a manifesto on the role of women in the so-called caliphate. It says it's legitimate for a girl to be married at the age of 9. It describes staying at home with her husband and children as the fundamental function of a woman. But girls should be educated, it says, until the age of 15, mostly in religion, as well as knitting and cooking. So what's the appeal for young Western Muslim women?
So how are these radical Muslim communities reaching out to their younger prodigies across the seas? Al-Shabaab targets young vulnerable men across Scandinavia. They're inviting them to embrace a jihad and become suicide bombers in Somalia. Seeking a sense of belonging and encouraged by preachers on online videos, a group of Danish Muslims are gathering in a small Copenhagen apartment and making plans.
Specifically invite the youth.
This is Abdi, my friend from Copenhagen. I know why.
That's a conversation that can be happening in Australia, in Britain, in homes across Europe. So how do we prevent those sort of conversations from happening in the first place? What's the language that we will tolerate?
Understand that the war against Islam and Muslims, David Cameron is the two-headed snake in charge of the crusade against Islam and Muslims in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Islam does not allow you to disrespect other people.
So living in a Western democracy, we allow open debate where we can express the opinions that we feel about our own communities and those of other communities. But it can be very difficult at times.
Intelligent man, we can tell from the way he articulates what he thinks. However, what I worry about is there are much less intelligent Islamic followers, Muslims in this country, who listen to what he says and are led down a path of extremism which could cause tremendous trouble. And indeed, the victims of the 7/7 bombers, the victims of 9/11, they're the people I fear for, the families of those people who've been killed because of that extreme view.
And members of these groups have expressed support for those terrorists, yeah.
And the idea that the British government should be supporting or providing finance to groups, Islamic groups, which filter down into some of this extreme area is absolutely worrying.
You too support the terrorists inside Iraq and Afghanistan. You support the pirate state of Israel.
How do you know I do?
Yeah, because
how do you know who I support?
So why are you against us when we paraded when the parade came to Luton or in Barking that the Muslims came out? Why are you against that?
And who defines them as terrorists anyway?
The question that we all should appreciate is that who lays down the boundaries of intolerant and tolerant?
Yes.
Surely, is it man, weak, limited, needy, or is it Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heavens and the earth?
But it's certainly not you.
I'm intolerant. I'm intolerant to promiscuity. Yes. I'm intolerant to alcohol.
Homosexuality.
Adultery. The pirate state of Israel. All the soldiers that are killing Muslims. I'm intolerant to all of that.
Nakedness.
Some might say he's not entitled to his opinion. I'd say we need to tolerate it up to a point at which it doesn't radicalise our young people in our communities, that bring them to the point of decision where they have to go overseas. And perhaps it's that which we go beyond. Toleration is not enough. We need to embrace all of the cultures and the religions and start to have a better understanding for why they create the problems in the world that they do. One country that can be proud in trying to bring religions together is Taiwan, where the Museum of World Religions belongs to all faiths. Its founding is inspiring and encouraging interfaith dialogue so that we all work together to create peace and understanding in the world we share.
I feel very proud that a Taiwanese Buddhist monk opened such a museum in Taipei. He is not only collecting my religious artifacts, my Catholic artifacts, but also others as well. He cares about not only his religion, but all the others on earth. It is very good to know. I am very happy to see this museum.
What the Dharma Master has done here, that this should be reported widely to all parts of the world. It is an astonishing phenomenon, Taiwan, showing such a fabulous example to the whole world.
So there is an opportunity for every country that's wrestling with radicalization. Why not open museums of world religions in every country? That should be our message to our ministers when they're trying to work out how to deal with this crazy problem. Embrace people's cultures in one space rather than keeping them apart.